Thank you, and thanks to the panel for having me come along and present to you today. Obviously, as you know, and as people in the room know, Council is not the consent authority for this particular project or any of the renewable projects. One of the things that we see from a Council perspective is the opportunity, when assuming these are going ahead, to maximise the benefits for our community, and that's one thing that this Council sets out to do. So I want to talk to the panel today about some of those areas where we see that we can maximise those benefits and deliver real benefits to our community. The first, of course, is in roads. We've worked very closely with Squadron Energy, in particular around the Spices Creek wind farm, for the roads that they will need to deliver these various components when they're doing the build. What we believe is that those roads will need to be, a consent or condition I'm sure, will need to be upgraded to a certain standard, but then that will leave those roads in a better condition for those residents forevermore, giving a benefit to those residents, but also a benefit to Council in that that'll reduce the maintenance needs for those roads around that area. Second area is in the VPA, and one of our great frustrations at Council is that V stands for voluntary, not C, compulsory. We'd prefer to see a compulsory planning agreement. That's not the case. We've worked on our own framework, we've developed our own framework to deliver, we believe, something that's reasonable, 1.5% of capital investment value from each project that we have discussions with. Now that's hard when it's not compulsory, but we found Squadron in this particular project were quite good. They came to the table, they negotiated, and we've now signed that agreement at that 1.5%, which is going to deliver $30 million in today's terms for our community. But more importantly, it's helped us with other negotiations we've had with other proponents because we've already got that 1.5% agreed to by Squadron. We've also worked on a way where that money will be delivered around the particular area. So in other words, we have a small radius where most of that money will be spent, and as that radius increases, less money is spent. So the fear of having all that money spent from the Spices Creek area back in Dubbo City, for example, is unfounded because that planning agreement says it will be delivered in a different way. Then we started to look at other ways we could deliver long-term benefits to our community. Squadron Energy said they needed water. They might need, say, 2 gigs of water over the next 5 years. They can buy that on the open market. That'll reduce the amount of water for the farming community. We sat down and negotiated and said, we've got a sewage treatment plant that has 4 gigs of water that we currently deliver to a farm to grow crops. A better use for that water would be in our community on our sporting fields, but we sit over an aquifer. We can't use that sewage treatment water over an aquifer. Squadron Energy have agreed, and we've got an MOU signed, and we've got permission from the OLG to continue on with a PPP. A $3.6 million advanced wastewater treatment facility will be built in Dubbo. Squadron will have access to that water during construction. After the construction phase, Dubbo will have access to that water, some 700 megs a year, forevermore, delivering ongoing, lasting benefits forever. Housing is another issue. We've said to Squadron in this project, we don't want a workers' camp. We want those people living in the community, in Dubbo, in Wellington, in the villages, because that will deliver better economic benefits to our community. One of those areas that they've worked on is a 10-hectare area of land that we've agreed to lease to Squadron. They'll put the underground infrastructure, the pipes for sewage, for water, for telecommunications, etc., in the ground. They'll build on that workers' accommodation, higher density. In the end, when they finish with that, and they've got a 5-year lease with a 5-year option, that higher density housing will be removed. We'll be left with ground, with all the underground infrastructure to build out an area that can be used for more affordable housing. So again, a huge benefit to our community. We've also talked to Squadron about having social benefits delivered, and one of the areas we've certainly talked about there is further employment in our area, and to that end, Squadron have now opened up an office not only in Dubbo but also in Wellington, 10 employees in the Wellington area, a huge benefit to the Wellington community. And the last area that we've really focused on is with a REACT Centre, a Renewable Energy Awareness and Career Training Centre. Now this is a thing that we believe will deliver significant benefits economically to our community in the short term with the training requirements that we'll have, but in the long term we see this similar to a Parkes Telescope Visitor Centre, a Snowy Discovery Centre in the Snowy Hydro Scheme, somewhere that will attract potentially 100,000 visitors a year coming through the community of Wellington, and that number of visitors will fundamentally change the economy of Wellington. So from a council perspective, again, as I mentioned, we're not the consent authority. We don't get to say yes or no. We're not trying to say yes or no. What we are trying to do is deliver significant benefits to our community, and with those various components that I've just laid out there, we believe the Spices Creek Wind Farm, if it goes ahead, will deliver significant economic benefits to the Dubbo Regional Council, LGA. Thank you.